welcome into the Hoist the Colors podcast. It is Monday night, May 12th. It is 9 o'clock. If you're joining us live, if you're listening to our podcast version, you can always catch us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. We've got a lot going on. The Hurricanes are in Game 4 against the Washington Capitals, so these two gentlemen are watching that along with doing this podcast. I'm Stephen Igo, joined by Jonathan Wagner, Scott Lorbatcher. We will recap the series loss to Texas San Antonio. Yeah, I said it, not UTSA. They're Roadrunners, best team in the league this year. They went 2 out of 3 in Greenville. And interesting series to break down. Well, just as a top of the show note, we may keep this episode to 45 minutes, depending on how many questions we get. I mean, really, there's not that much to talk about. Let's just be real. The storylines haven't changed much. We kind of know what this team is, and we're just ready for the conference tournament at this point, which we'll get into. But before we kind of dive into that, as always, drop your questions, comments in the chat. Also, AI, bots, Doge, Elon, any other buzzwords we need to get out there, we will do that as well to prop up our viewership. We always start off with just overall thoughts on the week. Pirates lose 2 out of 3 to UTSA, do win the finale in walk-off fashion, much-needed win. We'll start with Jonathan Wagner. Your thoughts on the Pirates series that was against the Roadrunners?
Yeah, I think it was frustrating because you should have won it. And, that's a good team that came in here, and you had the series win in your hands, and you literally walked it away by walking 4 straight guys in that front game of the doubleheader. So it was frustrating because to me it showed that, yes, this team is not good, and this team has a lot that they need to improve on. But at the same time, they're not that far off because they do have the pieces in place that can compete, and they should have won the series. So it's frustrating from that standpoint, and that's just kind of where I'm at. This team is what it is, like we've said every week, and there's nothing left to play for this season until you get to Clearwater. So it just is what it is. But again, I think you should have won the series against a good team. And if you did, just on senior weekend, it would have made it so cool with, Riley Johnson doing what he did, Jake Hunter doing what he did. It would have been really cool to go out with a series win for those guys, but they gave it everything they had. So it was cool from that standpoint. But yeah, you fell short and you didn't have to.
Scott Lorbatcher, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool to see Riley Johnson have a great weekend. Obviously, came off. I think I sent you guys a Jake Taylor from Major League gift after he came off with cramps. When he's in his last game and he lays down a bunt and just tries to leg it out, and kind of reminded me of that. But really good to see him and Jake Hunter have kind of big moments in their last weekend playing in Clark LeClaire Stadium. But it is more of the same. I mean, just getting outside of Hunter, not really a whole lot of your starting pitching, which has been the theme this year. Having an opportunity to win games late and not succeeding outside of the second game on Saturday. Even that first game, you're down 8-1, you come surging back, and then you give away free outs, and that's frustrating. You had every opportunity to get right back in that game. UTSA did something where, it is a fine line to walk where you're up 7 and you don't bring in your better relievers because you're trying to save them for later in the week. And we saw how much that can bite you in the butt because all of a sudden that game is a 3-run game and we got them on their heels and then we give them outs. And that's super frustrating. And then, we keep having guys step up and performing really well, guys like Pruitt and Zayak, and then we put them in the spotlight where they're the Saturday starter and it somehow just doesn't work out. And I think it's just kind of a metaphor for the whole season where it's like the talent is there, but the execution hasn't been. And that's really, really frustrating to watch. And it kind of just – the only thing we have left to play for is to not finish under 500 in the conference. So, I mean, I don't know how much effort and emphasis you put in on that, but right now I have a hard time believing that we could go to USF and win 2 games.
Yeah, it was just – and I'll ask y'all guys' opinion in a minute. Like, we haven't seen them have a moment like the finale the series finale, really all season. And so I feel like maybe I don't want to say turning point because it's like too late in the season for a turning point, but maybe that is something that propels them going into the the conference tournament, into the USF series. I do want to also preface the finale is what I termed this podcast. This isn't the finale of our podcast, I don't think, although if I keep sending the alternate titles one day, maybe I'll accidentally post one. That'll get us all kicked off the show for good. But I did title the podcast the finale because it is the final week of the regular season. So that's kind of what we're going for. Is we're recapping the UTSA series, obviously, but also looking ahead and into the conference tournament. So if you haven't heard yet, the Campbell game on Tuesday has been canceled, and the UTSA series, you guys summed it up well. I don't really have to add anything. But can you build on this late in the season, Wags, like a win like that? Like, can that change the mojo going forward, or is it too late?
I think it's too late, to be completely honest with you. But like I said earlier, I think it's different if you win that first game of the doubleheader and you don't blow it, and you find a way to win the series. And if you find a way to win the series, you win 2 games, and I think that's a little bit of a different story. But in the end, it just one win doesn't move the needle all that much for me, just because, again, this team still is in the same exact spot, and you're not going to make the tournament. And again, you have to win in Clearwater. So this weekend really doesn't mean all that much. And I think the team knows that too. They know that Clearwater is what matters. So that's kind of where I struggle to say, oh yeah, I think they're going to carry momentum into this weekend. But in reality, I think they're just going to kind of be looking ahead. I don't think you're going to see a starter go more than 4 innings over the weekend, no matter who it is. And I think just the tone's going to be set, and that's how it should be. It stinks that that's the reality, but yeah, it's just this weekend is significantly less important than the next week. So you just got to find a way to get through it healthy with your guys rested. So yeah, I don't really see that win moving the needle all that much, but again, it was cool to get that win, get that walk-off moment on senior weekend. So from that standpoint, it is a positive. It's one of the rare positive notes from the season. And you're going to need some more moments like that if you want to kind of defy the odds and make a run in Clearwater. So hopefully it can. It's just I'm kind of at a point where I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, look, losing is contagious. Not coming. I'm a firm believer in not coming up in clutch moments is contagious as well. So I am hopeful, but I see the skepticism for sure. I don't know, Scott. Do you feeling differently than either of us?
Yeah, I mean, we had 5 one-run losses in conference play this year. You flip those 5 games to wins, and you're 17-7 in the league, and 33-18 overall, something like that. I mean, that changes the perspective of things a ton, but it doesn't feel like we've had the level of energy that's required to be successful late in games. And I think maybe that changed for that second game on Saturday because it was Jake Hunter's last game. It was Riley Johnson's last game. In all likelihood, it's Dixon Williams' last game. And the forecast coming in. The Campbell game's probably not going to get played either way. So it is their last home game. And we've talked about it a ton. It just doesn't feel like the crowd energy's not there. The energy level on the field isn't there. This season has felt like it's been 100 years long. Like it has drug in a way that has never felt that way for East Carolina baseball to me. Even in 2017, when things went about as haywire as they possibly could, it didn't feel quite like this. This feels like, I can't think of anything to compare to it. It kind of feels like watching the Reds, where it's just like so frustrating because they'll score 10 runs one game and then 0 the next 5. And it's just, I don't know. Sports this year have been tough. But, maybe that you get the winning feeling back. You go to South Florida, and they're probably going to be resting guys too. You're going to see a lot of guys get opportunities to step up. And, we've seen guys step up once and then not back it up. So maybe we see guys step up in South Florida and carry that over into Clearwater for the first time really all season.
I do want to take a moment, guys, before we move forward and get to some of these comments to just talk a little bit deeper about Riley Johnson, Jake Hunter, and Dixon Williams. I think, look, I don't want this season to overshadow what those guys have meant to the program. Like, they have been a vital piece. Also, Jaden Winter, John Collins also honored, and Jaden Winter, I believe, a 4-year pirate as well on a lot of good teams. So, like, they deserve some recognition. And you couldn't help but wonder just watching Riley Johnson open the series with an incredible catch, hit a grand slam, like literally sack bunting, laying his body on the line to help the team win in his final home game. Like, could you get more Riley Johnson than that? I don't think so. So you wonder what this season could have been and what his career would have been if his body could have held up. So I don't know, Wags, like, pretty poetic for both those guys, especially Hunter and Riley and Dixon, who's, you know, had a great year, all things considered, to go out playing that way. But especially Riley, pretty emotional moments in Clark LeClaire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just felt more like classic ECU baseball when I woke up on Saturday morning, and the first thing I see when I have SportsCenter on is Riley Johnson making a highlight reel play and number 7 in the top 10. So that was really cool. And yeah, it just, again, it kind of showed you just what this team was missing. And on paper, you might think, okay, with the lineup, they're missing one guy. They're missing Riley Johnson. Like, how much of a difference does that really make? But we've talked about it all year long, and it's a massive, massive difference. And it goes beyond every facet of the game. It's at the plate, he can hit in the 2-hole, he can hit in the 5-hole, 6-hole, he can hit anywhere. He gives you flexibility in the lineup, and he gives you flexibility with what he can do with his bat. He can put down a bunt, he can draw a walk, he can hit the ball all the way to the scoreboard like he did twice this weekend, and he can truly do everything, and he's a difference maker in the outfield too. So it's different, and I've talked about it before, but just, you know, leadership-wise, it's one thing to have Riley Johnson in the dugout being a leader as a veteran guy on a team like this, but you can't really lead like that until you're on the field doing what you do best, leading by example. So him going out and having the day that he did was just awesome. He truly gave everything in his body for ECU baseball, and I'll forever respect him for that. He will be one of my favorite Pirates of all time, just for what he's battled through to contribute. And, you know, Jake Hunter too. I know Riley gets a lot of the talk, but Jake Hunter, he's been through a lot too. I mean, having him at all this year, I think, is luck, great luck. And I, even when we knew he avoided Tommy John, I was like, we'll be lucky to get him back by about midseason, and then he'll probably be a kind of a sparing bullpen piece just as he kind of works back to full strength. And he proved everyone wrong, including me. And he came back, and I would say probably your third best pitcher on this team. And that's saying something too, because the two in front of him are really good. So Jake Hunter deserves a lot of credit too. As a freshman, Sunday starter right out of the gates, and he comes out and he's ended his career just how he started, as a starter and a trusted starter, and a guy that it really gave a lot, and his energy will be missed as well. So those two guys gave a lot for sure, and I have a lot of respect for what they did this weekend.
Kudos to the fans as well for giving Jake a standing O as he exited, and then Riley Johnson, every time he came up, got a huge ovation. Scott, just your thoughts on this seniors class?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna miss having Jake Hunter around. I mean, for sure. You know, that's a guy that is, and then Riley Johnson too. They just both felt like they've been here forever. But I do want to take a second to talk about Dixon Williams, a guy that's a local kid, and, you know, for all intents and purposes, is leaving too. So, you know, the guys that are from Greenville that stick around and play, I'm always impressed by, because a lot of times they have opportunities to go elsewhere, and they've grown up in it, and they know how important baseball is to East Carolina, to Greenville, to the entire region. And so I'm just really appreciative of the guys that want to stick around and be here and put their mark on the program. And, you know, guys like Packard, and just, you know, I think that it means a little bit more from those types of guys. But yeah, I mean, Riley Johnson, He kind of reminds me of another guy that just his body wore down in Jake Hannon. That just guys that gave their all to East Carolina every day, played hard, and just took a physical toll on him that'll probably carry with him for the rest of his life, unfortunately. But you can't say enough good things about that guy just to continue to lay it all on the line. And he's not done yet. Got at least 5 more games, so we'll see how much more he puts out there.
All right, we usually have our "What Did We Learn" segment. Did y'all learn anything? Anybody learn anything this weekend? New?
Yeah. I think this one player in specifically has proven me completely wrong this season and completely flipped the script on how I view them, and that's Jack Herring. Jack Herring has gone from a player early in the year that I did not think his bat was worthwhile at this level of baseball, and I wanted him off the team immediately, to be quite honest with you. And now he's a guy that I think you have to have back. So Jack Herring has played exceptional baseball down the stretch. Another guy that gives you a little versatility in the lineup as a switch hitter, has hit 2, 3, 4, 5, and has hit very well. I think he's been ECU's best hitter over the last couple of weeks. So I learned that Jack Herring is a piece of the puzzle for next year. And I think he's a guy that deserves at-bats and is probably a leader to start next year, depending on what you do elsewhere. So Jack Herring has proven me completely wrong. And, yeah, he's a guy that I think you need to count on having him back, and you hope he does.
Scott, did you learn anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's if Sean Jenkins can figure out how to start games, he is one of the best pitchers in this conference. He had a great performance this weekend. Again, it's coming after, it wasn't an opener per se. I think the intent was for Zayak to go out there and be a starter, but Jenkins came in and gave you the most length, threw the most pitches, had the best outing of any East Carolina pitcher this weekend. And if he can do that starting in the first inning of a game and go 6, 7 innings, it's vital to ECU's success in 2026 and 2027 because they're going to need him and they're going to need at least 1 or 2 more to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I really learned is UTSA is good. I don't think they're as good as I expected. Johnny Robertson with the stat. UTSA never had more hits than the Pirates in any game this weekend. ECU out-hit the Roadrunners 32-28 overall. UTSA had a 10-game winning streak going into the finale. Look, UTSA, they're older. They're pesky. They're a raucous bunch. I tweeted, I got into it with some of their fans. Like, they have some interesting antics that you can really only understand if you're at the game. Like, they're chanting their own players' names. They're like when Austin Knight, every time he visited the mound, their whole dugout will go, oh, like it's just like the most annoying stuff ever. Like, they would like groan, and they would do this little dance every time they scored a run. Like, some of that's okay, but some of it's just, I don't know. It reminded me of like middle school softball. But look, they're a great team. They're pesky. They're tough to strike out. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. They do it to get under your skin, and then the way they win makes it difficult to deal with it. So you had some antics after their coach was ejected. He came back. He's celebrating like they just won the College World Series. There were also some words said to ECU's dugout, which sparked some things. But I say all this to say UTSA is good. They're winning the conference for a reason. I still don't think it's a great league. Is it better? Yes, but I don't know. Like, ECU is not that far away from being back at the top of this league, as Wag said earlier. Like, it's just about consistency, maturity. Can't have guys being thrown out at the plate when you're down 3 runs in the late innings. You can't have a ball get by you in right field on a damn ground ball base hit. You can't have a guy slide in the second or not slide in the second on a bunt and get tagged going. Like, just the little things, man, drive you crazy. And right now, that's what's keeping ECU from being at the top of the league. Kendra Presley adds they were a little over the top, but at least they have energy. We need some of that in our own dugout. So we could go back and forth on the UTSA thing. that's their brand. I remember when they came into the league, talking with some people in the industry. Conference USA coaches were sick of their antics. Well, now they're in the American and they're beating everybody. So when you win, you can do what you want, I guess. Wax.
Yeah, I think it's part of a game plan. And again, when you win, then great, it's working for you. And it's a little more like, okay, what are we doing if you're losing? So, they're winning this year, so props to them, and it's working for them. But I do think being kind of obnoxious is a game plan, and it gets in teams' heads. I think it got in our heads a little bit. And look, the only other thing I have to say is I gained a lot of respect for Pat Hallmark, and I tweeted this too. When after he got ejected, the camera was perfectly situated on him, and he took his hat off, turned it backwards, made sure it was on backwards, and then continued to go at the umpire and got in his face after that. I had a lot of respect for that. I thought that was hilarious. So I love that. That was my favorite moment of the weekend, to be honest with you. But yeah, I just think it's a game plan. We've seen it. And yeah, Scott's about to get in one of our faces now and get ejected. So, but yeah, we've seen it from some ECU teams in the past, not quite to that extent. But if it works, it works.
I saw when he went to the mound to visit. I couldn't see exactly what he told his pitcher, but you could tell he was like, "I'm just going to talk to you until I can yell at the umpire on the way back." He was waiting for the umpire. He was just waiting for that moment. And look, that's who he is. It works. I don't know. Any thoughts on UTSA, Scott, from the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't go just backwards. He went like backwards and like all the way down. It was impressive. But also that was strike 3, so he had every right to be bad. But yeah, no, look, they don't play in front of large crowds, right? You have to find a way to create your own energy. So I think that's part of it. And then two, I've seen a lot or read a lot about people saying, "Oh, well, ECU always plays with class. We always play with respect," things like that. And that's true from our team. But go down to our bullpen during the game and listen to some of the things that are said to opposing teams' bullpen pitchers while they warm up, and realize that for the players on those teams, we are all one group of people. The players on the field, players in the stands, the fans in the stands, excuse me, the coaches, the people in the jungle, and the people that sit around the bullpen and say awful things about people's mamas while somebody's warming up. I don't have a problem with people doing that. I think it can go too far at times, but I think it's part of college baseball. But realize that if you are in a UTSA uniform and things have been said to you for 3 straight games, and you're the team that's looking to upset the apple cart and be the team that is now the champions of this conference, you're going to be a little more pumped up after you win. And for East Carolina, I think sometimes you just got to take it on the chin when a team comes into your house and beats you, and you had every opportunity to win, and they did the things they needed to do to win those games. ECU this year has a better win percentage on the road than they do at home. So we can't be mad when people are celebrating on our field because we don't even defend it. So if you don't like it, then don't take it laying down through the 27 innings of baseball, and don't go down there and yell at their bullpen if you don't want them to get fired up when they win the game against us. Because I want our team to be fired up when they go to UTSA and they have to play in a gravel parking lot for 27 innings, or when they go to South Florida and they play in just an empty stadium. Like, you fire yourself up because these games matter. They should matter to you. They matter to us. They matter to the people that pay for your scholarship and your NIL money. They matter. And until you care about it as much as your opponent does, because I haven't seen that this year, to be quite frank. When I went to the Memphis series, I thought Memphis cared about those games more than we did. And Memphis, I mean, I've seen little league teams that could give them a run for their money, and they gave us fits. So you got to want to win the games, and you got to want to be there. And, East Carolina has been a lunch pail program for a long time. And now we've gotten all those things that we've said we've needed. The hitting facilities, we're getting even more. The stadium's been upgraded, but you still got to have that workman mentality that we had when I was in school when we didn't have a lot of these things.
Good rant. Scott's
fired
rant
me
of the
up.
week is here. What the heck?
Fired someone else up too.
Did you just destroy your
No, Leslie
your
knocked the
wall?
candle over trying to put an iPad in my office. So. Shout out to friend of the program, Leslie Lorbacher.
Leslie just ran through the wall after hearing Scott's rant.
Yeah, the Kool-Aid man in my office here. So
I mean, I can't blame her. That fired me up, Scott, when you said we can't be mad when teams celebrate on our field because we don't defend it. I felt that. You meant that. Fired me up.
And I'm tired of it.
I am
ECU
too.
with the worst home winning percentage since 2013 this season. 12 years. So just did not defend the home stadium. All right. Let's get into some of these comments, and then we will look at the week ahead. Cameron says, I've seen enough. Rest everyone this weekend, then go for it at the tournament. Nothing to lose. Maybe we can win 2 games in the tournament and build it for next season. He adds, I'm glad we were able to win the last game, but in terms of the season, it really doesn't matter. Maybe it will give confidence to some guys for next year, but still a disaster of a regular season. He also adds, glad the game against Campbell was canceled so we don't have to see the ugly turf again until next year. Honestly, a lot of soul searching needs to be done in the offseason from baseball operations. The whole damn operation, guys, needs to be blown up. Not just the baseball team, just the field generals, Joey Perry leaving us. Man, it's all gone to shit.
It has. The field looks awful. I mean, we have dead marks in left field, center field, and right field that were there opening day, and they've only gotten worse. So let's just start fresh next year. It was a disaster from the start all around.
Where do we go from here? Who knows?
Can't get any worse.
It has been tough.
At least the field can't get any worse.
Yeah.
Ask Rice Baseball if it can get worse.
All right, Will Stafford says the season has been a good wake-up call. Cliff Godwin did say today on the show, 94.3 The Game, that he basically promised the team's mentality will be better next year and needs to change. So I think maybe he's hitting on some of your points there, Scott. I think that's clear. Chuck says, will Trammell come back in time for the tournament? I don't think so. Cliff Godwin has basically referenced at this point, I think more than likely the way he gets back would be via a regional, but I'll try to get confirmation on that. Scott Jackson says, I agree with Igo. Is that why Boucher sat out the last game of the doubleheader? I don't know what he's agreeing with me on, but we probably should talk about that. That was the first game all season that Alex Boucher had not started. Now, he came back in to play defense, and then he got pulled for a pinch hitter. Correct? So, based on that, it would lead me to believe ECU still feels its best defensive alignment is with Boucher at shortstop. But I think it showed that enough is enough with the strikeouts after a while, guys. And 63 now in the season, Scott. So, I thought it was fine to change it up. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think 50 games in is a good time to start holding guys accountable for strikeouts and errors and things like that. I don't know. I mean, it's just can you make a change that is significant right now? Like
Caps has scored. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Keep going.
That's different.
I'm multitasking.
Also number 8, right? Aren't they both 8?
Yep.
There you go. Ironic. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, okay, well, what do you gain from benching him now, right? Like, I mean, if you had done it 8 weeks into the season, I think you could maybe find another guy that could play shortstop and fill a void. Because I actually do think that Boucher would have value on this team. I just don't think it's as your starting shortstop because I don't think he plays good enough defense and he doesn't produce it at the plate enough to justify how kind of lackluster the defense was. But as a guy who could play first a little bit, come off the bench and pinch hit, who could DH for you, I think the value was there. But I just don't – I think it's too little too late there. I guess we did and it worked, but, yeah, I don't see a ton of value in it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I like that eventually they tried something new, and does it continue? Wags is the real question. Do they, roll out there with Dixon Williams at shortstop for the next game, or do you think they go back to Boucher?
Well, as much as I've criticized Boucher this year, I hope it doesn't run it back because we're not a good defensive baseball team with Dixon Williams at shortstop because Dixon Williams doesn't have an arm. No offense, but
He's
I
not a
think
shortstop, yeah.
no, and I think that just kind of shows. I think that's why they waited so long, and it's because you don't really have another option, which is their own fault, the staff's own fault. I'll say that, but yeah, I think you're at the point now where yeah, you do have to hold guys accountable, and you know it's a little early, I guess, to look ahead to next year, given for them at least, since they have games left on the schedule this year. But you have to take a hard look at your roster and see who on the roster figures into your plans for next year and who doesn't. And if you have guys that are on the bubble and they aren't giving you what they need, then it might be time to maybe send a message and say, okay, you're not going to start this game because you haven't been good enough. So maybe they're doing it to light a fire under him. And he's been better defensively. I will give him that. But I think offensively he's tanked. So it's just one of those things that I don't think you really have a better option. And there's ways you can configure things, but again, it's on the staff for not having another option. But yeah, I do ultimately expect that he's going to be back out there at shortstop, just because I do think with the way this team is constructed, he gives you the best chance to win when he's out there from a defensive standpoint.
I do want to say, Wags, this is all happening with the Capitals after you said you weren't worried.
Oh,
You
I
said
know.
this pre-show. He's like, they're up two goals. I'm not worried. And then
And
Caps
it
have come
was
alive.
the longest time I've yapped tonight is when the Caps scored the first time. I didn't even notice it because I was looking at the screen when I was talking, and then after I finished talking, I noticed it was 2-1, and then the Canes scored again as soon as I finished talking the next time. So I just missed my time to celebrate, and then Ovi scored to make it 3-2, and now the Caps are heading to the PK, and the Canes will have a power play. So hopefully they score because they've actually been competent on the power play. And I really don't want to stress when we get in this or at the end of this call, I guess.
You're going to be making a bold prediction as the
Overtime
Capitals trying to
winner.
tie it up. Yeah. So, all right, let's get to some of these questions. Chuck says top two pitchers next year should be Norby and Jenkins. He says any incoming freshmen or JUCOs that can crack the starting rotation. I would think, I mean, no junior college pitchers that I know of right now, but in theory, you should have Antolik, you should have Towers. Again, we've talked about can you rely on injuries. Pruitt, we'll see what decision he makes. I think with an offseason, if he comes back, he would be a guy. He is draft eligible due to age. He would be a guy that could make a jump to starter next year. And then do you want to have Norby in the bullpen? Or do you want to have him? I mean, those are all offseason questions. I feel like we can tackle those probably in a postseason pod. I mean, we could have a whole discussion. So we'll get back to that, Chuck. I just wanted to say we got the question. All right, Johnny Robertson. This will lead us into our discussion for this week. I'm hoping for the Pirates to get the number 6 seed and for Charlotte to be number 2. ECU would then be on the opposite side of the bracket and would likely avoid having to face a Blake Gillespie start for Charlotte. So right now, guys, the standings, ECU's in 6th place, 12-12. This would be the latest game possible on Tuesday. Hooray. Which just sounds like a ton of fun. They would play South Florida right now. South Florida is 14-10. You got Charlotte in second at 15-9. FAU, Tulane tied for 4th at 13-11. I don't know, like I'm fine staying at the 6th seed. I mean, I think if you're ECU, it's whatever. But any thoughts here, Scott, on like what is there to play for from a seeding perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think like in order to win this tournament, you're going to have to be on your game the whole weekend, and I don't know that we have enough pitching to do that. I mean, obviously Gillespie's really good, and I do think he's the best starter in the conference. But at the same time, if you do face him first and beat him, then that's a team and a guy you don't have to worry about anymore. So it's just for me, we're going to play who we play. And if we don't play well, we're going to lose, and it's going to be obvious that we're going to lose. And if we play our best, we can beat any team in this league, no matter who the starter is.
I'm kind of the same way. Like, to me, it's about ECU. I mean, yeah, you would like to avoid Gillespie or Trey Beard, who I think are the two best pitchers in the conference. But like, I think ECU can beat either of those guys. To me, like, you got to have Norby on. Do we get good Norby? Do we get good Ethan Young? Ethan Young's been kind of up and down. Like, really, that first game, guys, it's going to be Ethan Norby, and it's going to be Ethan Young, maybe Brad Pruitt. Like, you're going to have your top arms. So, I don't know. Like, ECU can win that game. For me, the question is, who the hell pitches the Thursday game if you win that game? So, Wags, any thoughts on the seeding? Is there a preferred team you would want to see?
Yeah, I think, before the show we were talking a little bit, and I said that I'd rather just stay where you are because you stay on the side of the bracket that does not have UTSA or Charlotte. So, or you would have Charlotte on your side, but you would avoid UTSA, you would avoid FAU. But I think the more I've talked, I've kind of, settled in where you guys are, and it's just, it doesn't really matter. And when you think about it, avoiding a specific pitcher, it's a conference tournament. Every team outside of UTSA is going to throw everything at the wall to try to win. And, if you're a team like ECU, you're going to start Ethan Norby on Tuesday in the first game. But if you go on a run, that will not be the last time he starts. And the same thing is true for Charlotte and Gillespie. If he starts the first game and then Charlotte goes on a run, he's going to come back on the weekend and he's going to start again. So avoiding your guys, you're going to have to beat them eventually is kind of where I'm at right now. And yeah, it's just, if you don't show up and play with a sense of urgency, like, your season's on the line. And for the guys who were playing the last games, it's your last game in your career could be today if you don't show up. And that's what you have to show up like. And I agree. If you show up and play like you can beat anybody. We saw it this weekend. You should have won the series against UTSA. But if you make mistakes and you beat yourselves, and you can also lose to anybody. So there's not a single team in this conference that I'm just going to be like, oh yeah, I'm not worried at all, because I am worried about this ECU team, and the Canes just scored to make it 4-2, and I can breathe.
Canes, was that on the power play officially?
It was on the power play. I believe it was before it ended.
Wow. All right, Canes up by 2 with limited time remaining, and looking good there to take a 3-1 series lead. All right, the American schedule this weekend: FAU, which is 13-11, and tied for 4th with Tulane. They are at UAB. UAB is dead last. They are a game behind Wichita and Memphis. They need to win in order to make the conference tournament. You have ECU at South Florida. Again, South Florida sitting right now in 3rd place. They are a game behind Charlotte and a game clear of FAU and Tulane for 4th. You have Rice at UTSA. Rice has actually been kind of decent, guys. Rice right now is 10-14. They are in 7th place, 2 games behind ECU. Now, ECU does have the tiebreaker there, and they're facing UTSA, so it seems unlikely ECU would fall to 7th, but technically still possible. Memphis, which is fighting to get in at 8-16, a game above UAB and top of Wichita. They are at Wichita, so big series there. And then you also have Charlotte and Tulane, 15-9. Charlotte, which is in 2nd place, at Tulane in 4th place. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, guys, to see like who approaches these series with something to play for. Like, clearly, if you're Memphis, Wichita, Rice, and UAB, you're throwing everything you got. How do the other teams approach it? And if you're ECU, does Ethan Norby pitch at all this weekend? Scott, what do you say?
Yeah, I think you throw him just to keep him in the same groove of things, but I wouldn't go more than 50 pitches, because I think we've seen this in the past, even with ourselves. The higher seeded teams are often vulnerable early in the week. I think back to, I'm trying to remember what year it was, but Memphis beat us in an 8-1 game one year on like a Tuesday. And I could see us doing that to a 2 or 3 seed team out of this conference where we can get an early win. So I think you need to make sure that Norby and Young and Pruitt are all as rested as possible going in to the weekend.
So do you throw them like Thursday, just like an inning or two apiece, and then just make sure they're back for Tuesday? I don't know, Wags. What do you think?
I think you're gonna see everyone this weekend, but I think it's one of those things, and maybe you look at your top guys, and if say your rotation is Norby, and well, right now your rotation is Norby, but yeah, I think all your top guys, it's less to me a matter of which day they throw, and it's strictly on how much they throw. And for Norby, like I said earlier, I think 3-4 innings is max. And Ethan Young, I mean, he only threw 20 something pitches this past weekend, so I think I hope you can do the same thing with them. But you also don't want them to kind of sit around for too much without throwing and have rust going into the conference tournament. So it's a fine line to walk. But yeah, I mean, your guys like a Sean Jenkins, I would be light on this week because he just threw a lot, and he's still young. His arm isn't used to it as much, so I would keep him light for sure. Your guys like Pruitt, I would keep light. Hunter, all those guys. So no multi-inning outings out of the bullpen beyond like 2 innings for some of those guys. But again, it's just it doesn't matter what you did this week, what you do this weekend, but you also don't want to just go throw games. So, but it is an opportunity to where guys like just throwing out a random lane like a Tyler Brashear, Ian White, those kind of guys who have had limited opportunities, they're going to pitch this weekend. And if they come in and pitch well and show the team that they're capable of, living up to the moment, then they're going to get opportunities in Clearwater because someone has to. And Cliff talked today about how they have 12 healthy pitchers right now, and that's crazy. So you can't rest too much, but it is a huge opportunity that this team needs to take advantage of, not only for the season, but it's another one of those things I keep harping on. Looking ahead to next year, you can kind of see what these guys are made of.
Casey Ramaley says, do we see a Jaden Winter start this weekend? I think 100% yes. What about you guys? Assuming he's healthy.
I think Norby's going to go Friday. Zayak's going to go Thursday. Zayak's going to go Friday. Lance Williams is going to go Saturday. So no Jaden Winter start. But he will make multiple appearances.
What about you, Scott? You think we see Jaden Winter? The winter is coming?
I think he pitches in the late innings in 2 of the 3 games.
Jaden Winter closing it out, coming your way this weekend. All right, Kurt Cohn says, do we see there being a change in recruiting philosophy, and what did the staff stop doing that was working from 2018 to 24? I mean, this is a whole big picture item. I'll address this briefly, and then we'll roll into our week ahead predictions, because this is more of an off-season topic. But I think they just got away to an extent from recruiting. I'm laughing at Kaysen's next thing. From recruiting some bigger, more physical guys. Like, I just look at the teams like that had Packard, Jake Washer, Spencer Brickhouse. Like, I don't know, those dudes, like when they Joignier, which I guess was technically a Billy Godwin recruit, but still, like, you just had some mashers. And I think we've kind of gotten away from recruiting those types of bats along with some speed. Also, I don't know. I just don't think they have quite attacked the recruiting trail as much as they did when Cliff Godwin was first head coach. Like, all I heard about was Cliff's here, Cliff's there. Cliff was on the road a lot. I don't know if he's been on the road, from what I hear, the past 3-4 years as much. And I think that's had an effect on high school recruiting to an extent. Obviously, the portal has become a bigger part of baseball, and ECU is learning how to navigate this. And I think it's fair to mention you had a huge senior class, graduated all at the same time. You had key injuries, so it was kind of a perfect storm. Could they have done things to get better and prepare for this? I think absolutely. And they'll address that this offseason, hopefully will. But also think the past 6 years, as you're talking about, has earned them some grace, and now they have this offseason to fix it. So I don't know, Scott, any brief thoughts here? I don't want to go like all the way down this rabbit hole, but before we dive into the week ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a good time for some reflection this offseason on what our recruiting philosophy will be. Do you want more, Bryson Worrells, or do you want more Alex Boucher's? And the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. But I do think Cliff not hitting the recruiting trail as hard as he has in the past, and the aversion to the transfer portal, those are part of the job. And I know things have changed since he took the job as far as what college athletics is, but that's still part of the job, and the job is to win. And I know that we're raising and building men of great character, but at the end of the day, the job is to win, and do that too, but win.
Job is to win. Wags, any final thoughts before we get into our picks?
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see a little more activity on the trail from Cliff because, and I don't mean this as much of a shot as it's going to come off as, but if you're going to complain about guys not giving it their all in practice, then it's on you for recruiting the wrong type of guys. That's all I got.
All right. We'll have more big picture stuff on the roster after the season, especially since if the team does not win the conference tournament, we'll have at least a postseason show to break down the future of the program. All right. Bowl prediction time, week ahead time, guys. So Scott Lorbatcher's bowl prediction hit. He had the Riley Johnson home run. He not only hit one, he hit two. And maybe he did it for me and you because he knew my original prediction was Riley Johnson home run. I had Austin Irby going deep twice. He almost hit one. It was caught the wall. Wags, what was yours?
I had Alex Peltier and Drew Downs would combine for 3 hits, and they combined for 1. So
Drew Downs got some run.
Yeah,
and,
better than 0. It was better than I thought it was going to be for a while.
So we'll and I think y'all each had 1 and 2. I had 2 and 1 on my prediction. So I lose again. We'll start there. Campbell game canceled. USF series. I mean, who the hell knows with this? Wags, take a shot at it first.
Yeah, my prediction is what you just said. Who the hell knows? And I don't know. My gut tells me 1 and 2, but my brain also tells me that South Florida's in more of a position to rest guys too. So I think they're going to be doing the same thing. So it's kind of just a toss up. And my gut is just telling me it's going to be a windy weekend like Florida usually is. So I don't know. Now my gut's telling me ECU is going to win. So ECU will take 2 out of 3 to end the season on a high note, get some momentum going into Clearwater. Again, one of those things, just because I don't trust them to do it, means they're probably going to.
Wags' prediction is in. Windy week in Florida coming your way. What about you, Scott?
I believe there's a front moving through there now. Maybe it'll be gone by the weekend, so Wags will be incorrect. But, South Florida 27-22, just over 500 at home. I'll go 1 and 2. I think we still won. I think we probably went on Thursday. They went on Friday. And then the Saturday game is a true coin flip because both teams will probably know what position they're going to be in for the conference tournament at that point. And it's all about getting rested up and ready for Clearwater. So, and I think if you give it a back end of the bullpen type game, I don't know that I would trust ours over USF's, which I don't know a lot about USF's back end of their bullpen, but I just know what ours has done as far as walking and hitting guys. So if we can make USF put the ball in play, then I think 2 and 1, but I'll go with 1 and 2 based off of what I've seen so far this year.
I'm going to go 1 and 2 as well. I just think on the road, a little less motivation, and I'm sure USF has some seniors as well, so maybe get some motivation there. And it's basically going to be maybe outside of some portions of Thursday game, kind of 2 midweek games we see from between USF and ECU. So you just don't know what to expect. The win report, this weekend is looking ahead. Thursday, May 15th, 2 to 8 miles per hour with gusts up to 14 miles per hour on Thursday. Friday, 2 to 9 miles per hour with gusts up to 17. And then Saturday, 1 to 9 mile per hour winds. So there's your wind report for Florida.
Thank you for that. I'm glad we had that on the show tonight.
I had to look it up. Just no rain in the forecast. I'm seeing like high of 92 all 3 days, so it's gonna be sweltering. All right, bold predictions, guys. Again, who the hell knows what we're gonna get here, and we could go in a lot of different directions. So we'll start. With Scott since he nailed it last week. What you got, Scott?
We'll go similar route. We're going to see an Alex Peltier home run this weekend. Wind aided.
It's all about the wind.
The gust.
We're assuming the wind is blowing out. By the way, there's a very good chance it could be blowing in. But
we have no idea.
Wags, what you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to one of my early predictions of this season, and because of the pitching staff uncertainty with who's coming in, I think that you're going to see Gabe Beschloss come through, and I was going to say a save, but I'm going to give myself more of a chance, and I'm going to say Gabe Beschloss gets a win on the mound this weekend. I still like Gabe Beschloss. He has potential.
Gabe Beschloss is going to get a win. I'm going to go way off the board here. I'm going to say that Braden Burris makes his first pitching appearance of his college career. Braden Burris in high school compiled a 1.00 ERA over 181.1 innings with 218 strikeouts. Put him on the mound.
Two-way you.
If you're listening to
the time of year when Colby got his first appearance last year, right?
Yeah, but I think he was actually working as a pitcher, whereas Braden is not. So I'm just gonna say, look, ECU, they get to game 3, they're like, we don't want to burn any more arms. You only have 12 healthy pitchers, and I think they're just gonna say, what position player can pitch? And Braden Burris.
I like it. You might need a position player pitching if you make it to the conference championship game.
There we go. Braden Burris is our guy. He makes his debut this weekend. Write it down. Total guess. I get double points if I get this. Not that we're keeping score. All right. We're out of time because I told you guys we go less than an hour tonight. We are actually going to stick to that, surprisingly. Congrats to the Canes. They got it done. Wags, you only had to sweat a little bit, so hope you're happy.
Only while I was talking and I didn't really understand. I didn't realize it happened yet. So I'm glad it went down like that. But I was going to go to game 6, but now the Canes are going to win it on Thursday in game 5 and save me a little money that will go for next round and the next round. So I feel good. Go Canes.
Scott, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I believe I called Canes in 5 on the last podcast. So you heard it here first.
We won't talk about what I called.
Yeah, non-believer.
Wags didn't comment on my 20-year-old Hurricane shirt. So
I did notice it.
This is a Tomo Rutu jersey.
I love Tomo Rutu. Hell yeah.
That is pretty sweet. All right, we will get out of here, guys. Appreciate it. Kaysen says next round, Wags, as he is saying. You're predicting a Stanley Cup appearance?
I'm not predicting anything until I know who we're playing.
All right.
We got to win this round first, too.
Yeah, don't eat your words again. We'll see. All right, we got to get out of here. It's been fun again. We'll be back 9 p.m. next week. We'll know. I mean, at that point, we'll know ECU's opponent, path to a championship. So next week's show should be fun. Looking forward to that. Get through this week, see where the cards fall, and we'll assess ECU's conference tournament hopes for Jonathan Wagner and Scott Lorbatcher. Scott Storm Surge Lorbatcher, I should say. We are the Hoist the Colors, Bucks on the Pond podcast. I'm Stephen Igo. We'll see you next week.